Hey friends, welcome back to Whiskey and Wit. I'm Whitney, and today's video is going to be full of Cricut beginner-friendly decor project inspiration, so you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. So in 2020, my top video was my beginner-friendly Cricut DIYs. You guys know I absolutely love using my Cricut to DIY. I purchased my first one back in 2016 to DIY a ton of projects for my wedding. I also made some things to sell to make money for that wedding. So Cricut has been a huge part of Whiskey and Wit and my crafting journey in my adult life. I want to give a huge thank you to Cricut for sponsoring today's video so I can bring you guys some more tips and tricks when you use your machine. I know that a lot of you got your machines over the Christmas holiday and it can be a little bit intimidating or overwhelming, so it's my goal to pull back all of that scariness for you and make it easy to craft, because once you get the hang of it, you will use it all the time. Today we're going to go through some projects that are quick and easy to use for the Explorer Air 2 model, but you could also do these things on your Cricut Joy or your Maker. I will link more information down below on the difference between the different machines in case you're interested in checking them out. So without further ado, let's get crafting.
Up first, we're going to do a sign with a simple vinyl decal. So this particular one says, being a family means you will love and be loved for the rest of your life, no matter what. I really love that saying. So I grabbed this unfinished sign from Hobby Lobby. It was $10.99, but you can use the 40% off coupon, or it was 50% off when I bought it. So the first thing we're going to want to do before we do anything with the Cricut is measure how big you want your vinyl decal. So many times people have issues because they do not measure before they design. So once I have my measurements, I'm going to go into Cricut Design Space. And Cricut Design Space is free with your Cricut. You just download it online and it's software that you can use. You can either Bluetooth your machine to your computer or phone or iPad, or you can hook it up with a cable, and that's typically what I do just because that's what I'm used to from years of using Cricut. So once you hit New Project and Upload on the left-hand side, we're going to upload a decal that I designed myself. This is similar to uploading an image to a social network site. It's really easy. You just find it and add it. So then once it's added, you're going to go ahead and click Simple, and if you download this free cut file from my blog, you will be able to do the exact same process. You're going to go ahead and click Continue. On that screen, you can remove any white background that you don't want cut. But because there's no white background, you just hit Continue. You'll click the right-hand side for a cut image, which it says underneath. And then you're going to go select your file and insert it into your design. And everything I'm clicking is the green button, so it's really easy to follow. Then I decided that I wanted a about 10.5 width by about 3 inches height for my sign. And when in doubt, you can go ahead and remove a little bit because you're going to want breathing room around your vinyl. You don't want it to go right up to the edge because then it looks like you just cut the wrong size. So I gave myself a little bit of breathing room, especially for the beveled edge on my sign, and then I was ready to cut it. Now, a couple different things you can do when you're in there. You can use the top right-hand icon to rotate, the bottom right to resize manually, or you can use the numbers up top to get exactly the size that you want. You can also unlock and lock aspect ratio in the bottom left, so that's in case you don't want it to stay in the same aspect as what you created it in. Then you're just going to click Make It. Super simple. It will lay it out on a mat for you, and then it's time to put your vinyl onto your mat. So this is matte black vinyl that is from Cricut. I will link it down below. And what I do is line it up on my mat. This is a 12 by 24 mat, and I prefer that size just so I can cut a lot of different sizes of things. But you can also get a traditional 12 by 12 mat, which is a square. Then I load it up, make sure my dial is set to vinyl because that is the type of material that I'm using, but Cricut can cut up to 100 or more different types of materials, so you just tell it based on the dial what you want to cut, and you go ahead and hit the start button. It's pretty simple, and once you do it a few times, you will be so excited for how easy it is. Here's a quick hack to make sure that your vinyl does not roll. You're going to peel your mat, whatever the size, back from your vinyl versus peeling the vinyl straight off of the mat, and that will make it so your vinyl doesn't curl and you have a heck of a time weeding it. speaking of weeding, that's your next step with the process. And for this one, I am just making a decal, which is the letters in vinyl. So my first step is to take my weeding tool here, and I will link this down below, but it's the Cricut brand. And I go through with my little Captain Hook and remove all of the insides of the letters first. So the insides of O's, A's, B's, P's, etc. Then I go through and remove the excess vinyl from around the words. As you can see, I'm revealing that saying that's going to go on our sign. Now, this is a slow process, and you want to make sure that you're careful with this, especially with a thinner font like I used here. If you're new to Cricut and you're worried about having issues peeling it up like this, go with a thicker font. So you can make it a bold font. You can just go with a thicker font in general. Thin fonts or scripty fonts are going to be harder to weed. So if you're getting used to the process, go ahead and be easy on yourself and pick better fonts to help you weed. Then once everything is weeded like this, then I took some transfer tape, which is just looks like a big piece of packing tape, and I added it to my design right over the top. And you want to make sure to use your little squeegee tool so you don't have any bubbles. And then you can peel off your backing and stick it to your sign. This is just like if you were sticking a bumper sticker or something onto your car. You just peel it off, stick it where you want it, make sure it's straight, and peel back your transfer tape. I do that at an angle just so I don't rip up any letters like I did here. It happens, it's easy to fix. Just stick your letter back down. And that's it. You just stick a decal on this sign, and this is easily something that you could have found at Kirkland's or another home decor store, and I was able to make this for under $8. What I also love about this is that I create decals where the fonts go together, so then everything in my house looks cohesive. It can have different stories or different meanings, but all the fonts will tie it together, which for me, I absolutely love.
If this is your first time on my channel, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss future Whiskey and Whit videos. I do a ton of DIY and budget home decor, and I love to inspire you guys to create the home that you love on a budget.
So up next for this Hobby Lobby makeover again, we are going to use the same technique to make this Meals and Memories Are Made Here decal. So how many times do you walk through Hobby Lobby with clearance items? I know I do, and I say, I love that, the price is amazing, but it doesn't match my decor because I don't have cactuses in my decor. Well, spin it around and see what you could potentially do with a blank side. So I decided I was going to make this over. So same thing, I made sure to measure, and I decided that I needed about a 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch square to give myself that breathing room I was talking about. So once I had that all measured, I went and cut out my decal, and I also wanted to make sure to cover up the cactus just so it was white all the way around. I used some chalk paint because it's freezing in Illinois, but you can definitely go outside and spray paint that if you would like. Then I went into Design Space. I did the same process as before, uploaded the file. Again, this is a free one on my blog, sized it to the 3.5 by 3.5 and cut it out. Then I went through and weeded it again, and you'll hear that term a ton of times, but basically that is just removing the excess vinyl that you don't want on your decal or stencil or your cardstock piece that you've cut out. Really, whatever you end up cutting, it's removing the excess material. Here again is another example of, I love the scripty fonts, but it just takes a little bit more time to do thinner scripty fonts, and I don't mind it because I really like the font, but again, if you want to save yourself a little bit extra time, go with thicker fonts and larger letters. Same thing, we're going to add our transfer tape, stick it down, and make sure that there are no bubbles by using the little squeegee tool, and that comes in a set along with the weeding tool, so I will link that down below if you're interested in that. Then I did the same thing that I did with the sign, just pushed it down and then peeled it up at an angle. As you can see here, if little pieces come with, just go ahead and push it back, push it down, and then peel it again. It's pretty forgiving as long as you don't rip it like a Band-Aid. You're gonna wanna take a little bit of time to make sure it sticks correctly. Now, I love how I was able to make over this $2.99 jar. I loved the top of it, the cute little wood handle, and honestly, you would never know that this was a cactus container. This will work year-round with any season because it's so neutral, and it was under $5 total to make. Speaking of kitchen decor, this next one are these really cute and trendy little rolling pins. And these are so easy, and these are another Hobby Lobby find. Hobby Lobby, you guys, is killing it with the unfinished wood. So if you're unable to find things at like a Dollar Tree or a Michael's, check out Hobby Lobby. They also have items online. I will link down below what I can find. So my first step with these three is to go through and just quickly stain with my dark walnut stain the little handles. That way I had a little bit of contrast, and this dark walnut stain, similar to the fonts like I mentioned before, is what's around my whole house. So you can customize it to whatever you want. Then to protect that work, once it dried, I just used some regular old painter's tape. You could use washi tape, whatever you have, but protect that stained area and then paint the rolling pin whatever color that you want. If you want a seasonal look, you could do different colors, but because this is just a neutral farmhouse piece, I decided to do white. And then once you let them dry, you're going to want to prop up your little handles and make sure there's a little bit of clearance underneath so they don't stick to whatever surface and look kind of wonky. Another thing I wish I would have done is sanded them, but there was a flat side, so I just ended up leaving it. But if you don't like that look, you can sand them down before you paint and stain them. Then again, measure, measure, measure. That's probably the biggest thing that I want you to leave with today when you're using your Cricut. And then for this one, I ended up just using the Cricut design tool within Design Space to create these instead of importing. So I went and typed the word bake, and then I decided that I wanted to use a typewriter font. So I just went ahead and typed typewriter, and this is a font available with Cricut Access, which includes a ton of different fonts and images. So if you're not a designer or don't like designing like I do, you can use a lot of Cricut options. That is an additional monthly charge, but it's pretty nominal. I'll leave more information down below if you're interested in checking that out as well. Then I just duplicated my bake and then did fresh and home, and then resized like I've done with the other ones. I decided that the height of these for these particular ones needed to be 1/6 of an inch. So I just typed 0.6, cut them out, weeded them, and then added my transfer tape. Another tip for you is that this transfer tape is reusable. Because I shot these and needed to get footage for you guys, I used individual pieces, as you can see, so each project kind of stood alone. However, if I'm just crafting on my own, I'm reusing my pieces of transfer tape, and you can use them really 2 to 3 times, sometimes 4, depending on the medium that you're sticking your pieces down to. With the curved surface, I'm just pressing right down the center of my decal and then making sure it curves around the surface. And then to finish off the look, I added just some buffalo check ribbon to 2 of them. And then the third one, to make it look a little bit different but cohesive, I added some Dollar Tree jute twine. These were super easy to create, and I really think that I am going to do some for Christmas and Valentine's Day and summer, and these would be so cute as little patriotic ones. So let me know down below if you'd like me to share my seasonal variations of these, but these are awesome. I'm going to be able to use this set anytime that I want. So we're going to stick with our vinyl decal game again and create this really trendy wreath hanger, door hanger, whatever you want to call it. These have been all over the place, selling for a pretty penny, and I'm going to show you how you can grab the supplies at Hobby Lobby and make them yourself. So I wanted to use a really lightweight sign, so I grabbed this baseball one from the woodpile section because I knew I could use the back for my actual front. So I went through with my same dark walnut stain by Minwax and stained the back and the edges and let that dry. Then it was time to add my paint, so I used some painter's tape and taped off my design that I wanted. Originally, I was going to do a top small stripe and then a bottom area. I ended up changing my mind and decided that the small bottom area was too small, so I did another 2 coats right above center, just so it could give me the look I was going for. Then I measured for my decal, and this one is another free download, so you can go ahead and download it and import it like I showed you at the beginning. And then I resized to 11 inches in width, and that was about 6 inches tall. I made it with the exact same process and the exact same matte black vinyl. I like to use matte black, and you've seen that all across here. It's not as shiny, and when I put it on signs, especially with like stained wood, I like it because it's not as shiny. It looks like more like paint, but it's really easy to put on the sign versus like stenciling. So then the same process, I went through and weeded it. And if you have a difficult weeding process, go through and just cut out different pieces as you go. Nobody says you have to pull the whole piece in one shot. I know you see that in a lot of tutorial videos, but I hardly ever do that. So cut it as you go, make it easier for yourself. Like nobody's gonna know that you did it in 12 pieces versus one, and you'll save your sanity. Then I added my transfer tape, stuck it down, peeled it off, and then I decided it was a little blah, so I decided to add some lamb's ear and a bow. So this is just some burlap I had left over from another project. You can get this for cheap at Hobby Lobby. I cut a piece that was about 2.5. I just eyeballed it, 2.5 feet. I rolled it just like you would a awareness ribbon, and then I pinched the center and tied that with some jute twine to create this no tie bow. Then I used some hot glue to cover up that jute twine with a little bit more of that buffalo check ribbon that I had on hand. Used my scissors to push that down, and then it was time to add my hanger before I stuck everything to the front. So I just took 2 huge dabs of hot glue, put down my jute twine, and then finished with some hot glue at the top. I've had no issues with that being a hanging mechanism, and it lays flat, which I like. Then I just did 2 pieces of lamb's ear that I got from Walmart, but Hobby Lobby also has this. I twisted them together so they stuck together, hot glued them down. Over the top of that, I stuck my bow, I trimmed my edges so it didn't cover my letters, and voila. These signs, you can put whatever saying you want on them. You could also customize it with your last name. Really, there's a ton of different options, and I just decided to hang it on a wreath, but you could put it on a wreath on your door, but this is on my gallery wall in my living room, and I made one for Christmas, which is in this video, and I will link that down below if you're interested in seeing the take on that. But when I took it down, I decided that I really needed a year-round version to leave up in this area. I do think I'm going to make some of these for gifts for friends with babies, like birth dates and things, so there's a lot of different options. And finally, we're going to create this cute little crate, and we're going to do a stencil and paint it on versus the decal that we've done all video. So this crate, you guessed it, shocker, is also from Hobby Lobby. I was just so impressed with all of their unfinished wood. It's so affordable and really cute. So this is another decal, stencil, cut file, whatever you want to call it, that you can download from my blog. And I went ahead and measured and resized just like I have every other time. The process within Design Space and cutting is exactly the same, but to make your stencil, we're going to weed a little bit differently. And what I mean by that is instead of weeding the insides of letters as well as the outside excess piece, you are going to weed the inside of the letters. So as you can see here, I'm pulling out the H, the A, the V, and everything that you see in white here is what you're going to stencil onto your item. So areas that have little pieces like the E's, you just want to be careful that when you're pulling up the vinyl that it doesn't come with. If it does, you can peel it back off and just stick it back down, but if you go carefully, you should be good. Then same process as before, we're going to add our transfer tape, stick it down, use our little squeegee to make sure everything is good, no bubbles. And then real quick here, I just went through with a little bit of sandpaper and roughed up the edge where I was going to put it on just because it's unfinished wood. I liked the color, but I wanted to make sure that the vinyl was going to stick. So I just roughed it up a little bit. Then I added my stencil to the side of the box, stuck it down just like the decal, and then I peeled up my transfer tape. This ended up ripping in the middle, so I had to take off 2 pieces, no problem. And then the last step here before I started painting was to add some painter's tape just in case stuff, I don't trust myself sometimes, so it's just an extra level of protection. I just reused a piece that I had from the sign before. Went through, did a light coat of Mod Podge that helps your stencils stick down, especially if you don't have paint underneath, so you don't have bleeding. And then I took a disposable makeup sponge, a little bit of black Waverly chalk paint, and went through and dabbed over all of the letters. I did 1 full coat, and then I just filled in some areas, but I didn't want all of the letters to look perfect. I wanted it to look rustic to go with my overall decor theme at my house. So I let it dry maybe 30 seconds, and then I went and peeled it back just so then it didn't have time to cure to the wood, and that will help so you don't rip up stuff when you pull it back. Again, be careful with peeling, and then take your weeding tool and pull back all the little pieces that are inside the letters, and done. I absolutely love this saying. This past year, especially with the pandemic, has really shifted my perspective. And so when I'm making different pieces of decor, I really look for sayings that haven't been overly used, but things that really speak to our family and our experience. And that's another great thing about using your Cricut is you can create things that are personalized to you and your family instead of just having a mass-produced piece of decor.
Thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you to Cricut for partnering with me on today's video. Be sure to let me know down in the comments something that you learned today, and also let me know if you have other things with Cricut that you're struggling with. I would love to create more content this year to help take away all of that intimidation with the Cricut, just so you can get crafting and really enjoy it. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!